But he got me on DJ. He can't do this.
It hit different, you see what I'm saying? But we had our differences when we had our differences, though. That's why I say it don't be knowing the background of this. Really from Chicago, know the background history of what's really going on Bro Grave.
So you feel like he was doing more mocking?
No, he ain't mocking. He doing content.
Right.
Ain't no mocking, he content. He pushing content. I'm gonna write every name you dissed. And you say every name. I'm gonna be right next to you. That's how I wanted to go.
So FYB J Mane thought it was a good idea to visit OBlock, a place where he's clearly not welcome. And let's just say he learned the hard way. He ended up running for his life out of the neighborhood.
But he got me on DJ. He can't do this.
You could try it, J Mane. Damn.
If you're wondering why J Mane had to flee, it's probably because of his audacity. For someone who's been dropping multiple disrespectful diss tracks aimed at OBlock, you'd think he'd know better than to show up there. I mean, just check these out.
OBlock front street, they found LA face down the street. They found Noose with his brains on the seat. Try come riding through the hood, we spray your like pesticide. I might dig Fredo one just to record it on my line. 300K, we don't with them. 600K, I don't with them. Chief, keep you up, and your mama my dick.
It's like he's on some reckless vibes, not caring who he disses or when. To make it worse, J Mane has openly declared his hate for the OBlock crew, so his visit was pretty much a recipe for disaster.
Second of all, you talking about, do I hate people? I only hate the OBlockians, bro.
Honestly, he's lucky he only got chased out this time, because if he tries stepping foot there again, the outcome might not be as light. There's definitely more to break down here, so let's dig into the details. So FYB J Mane has always been tied to the Flyboy Gang, FBG, a crew linked to the Gangster Disciples, including the late FBG Duck circle. If you've been following, you know FBG Duck was tragically off in a shooting that's been widely connected to King Von's camp. These two sides, FBG and groups like OBlock, which are tied to the Black Disciples, have had a history of deep-seated rivalries. Despite all this history, FYB J Mane has been on a mission to push for peace between these groups. It's a bold move, no doubt, and not an easy one. Recently, J Mane decided to head back to OBlock with the help of some Muslim brothers who were going to accompany him for a meeting with an up-and-coming rapper named Ike Muna. Now, this wasn't J Mane's first time in OBlock. He'd been there before, but that visit was more of a casual tour alongside Tay Savage.
I had to bring the Stop the Violence series to OBlock. Let's start there.
Sir.
It hit different. Let's start there. We really doing real whoops.
Real talk, homie.
They were trying to have a real conversation, a serious talk aimed at working towards an official peace treaty. You know how intense the atmosphere is as soon as you step foot in OBlock. Picture this. You walk or drive through the gates and then they close behind you. It's like stepping into the lion's den, surrounded by people with reputations as ruthless killers. It's a whole different kind of tension.
We about to brother J Mane over, right? Y'all know we Muslims, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And we push your peace, right, bro? So we gonna lock in and push peace with the brothers, man. That's cool?
Yeah, for sure.
Go read your brother.
Now, in the video you can hear someone asking, where's E at? E is short for E-Dog, one of the older heads in OBlock. In real-world terms, E-Dog is still relatively young, around 35, maybe close to 40. But in the world of gangs, especially in urban areas plagued by violence, hitting 35 is almost unheard of. Most people in this environment don't live to see 21, so by gang standards, E-Dog is basically considered an elder or even a grandpa. The thing is, E-Dog was taking his time showing up, which added to the tension. Out of everyone there, J Mane and E-Dog were the only two with personal beef. For most others, the animosity was purely because they were on opposite sides, but with these two it ran deeper. Their issues dated back to an incident at a barbershop some time ago. J Mane had spotted E-Dog outside a barbershop as he was getting into his car. At the time, neither of them really had personal problems with each other, so they didn't feel the need to get into a fight or escalate things right there. They just went their separate ways. But later that day, J Mane jumped on social media and let everyone know that he saw E-Dog at the barbershop, and that E-Dog didn't want any smoke. smoke. That post didn't sit well with E-Dog. From that moment, he held a grudge against J Mane. Things got even worse when J Mane went on DJU's platform and gave a full rundown of the barbershop incident, claiming E-Dog backed down when he saw him. For E-Dog, it wasn't just about gang affiliations anymore. It became personal.
They say he own it.
He owned that. So I had to pump fake, bro.
So what's he on it?
E-Dog seen J Mane. He ain't want no smoke. He get in his whoop.
Oh.
But J Mane was pump fake. His whoop, get the f up out of there.
Now, while they were waiting for E-Dog to show up, the peace talks continued. However, something stood out immediately after the initial greetings. If you pay attention to the video, you'll notice that nobody seemed to be engaging with J Mane. They weren't looking at him, talking to him, or even acknowledging him much. Instead, everyone had their backs turned, appearing more focused on something else. Meanwhile, J Mane was just standing there looking like, okay, so what's going on here? It gave off the vibe that people weren't really ready or willing to have the conversation.
The kids gonna be able to come outside. Y'all see all the kids out here whooping? Let's start that up.
Despite the awkward energy, J Mane did a solid job of breaking the ice. He didn't let the weird vibes throw him off and jumped straight into the topic, trying to get the conversation started. This move definitely helped ease the tension a bit. One of the biggest highlights of the meeting was FYB J Mane. A lot of people praised FYB for how he approached the discussion. He asked thoughtful and intellectual questions, like why the push for peace was happening now instead of back when they were younger.
I feel like it starts with us, and we set the example for the shorties. Maybe they'll pick it up, maybe they won't. But I feel like
I got a question though. Why y'all decided to set the example when we was short? You know what I'm saying? Like we got homies that died young, and they mama might have heard you say something. They, damn, this grown man, my son was 18, 19, he died.
His questions made him come across as genuinely invested in the conversation and not just going along with it for show. People online noted that his input brought a sense of sincerity to the meeting. Some even said that if everyone there had immediately been overly friendly or brushed the peace talks off, it would have been a red flag for J Mane. In gang culture, moments like that can sometimes signal a setup, or what's called a backdoor play, where someone gets lured into a false sense of security. AK's approach, however, made the whole thing feel more authentic. But then, things got complicated when someone from OBlock brought up J Mane's diss tracks. They asked if the diss songs he had put out were still up on YouTube, suggesting that if J Mane really wanted peace, he should start by taking those tracks down.
All your songs are on YouTube?
yeah, songs on YouTube.
If you push a piece, take that down, brother. That's the first step. All this camera ain't about nothing. Take that, that's the first step, bro.
The song, it should be vice versa on both sides then, right?
This moment sparked a lot of discussion online, with many people saying this demand showed how difficult it was going to be to push peace between the two sides. The logic behind this demand frustrated fans, who argued that it was unrealistic and not really about peace at all. For instance, if J Mane was expected to take down his diss tracks, what about King Von's songs? King Von has an entire catalog of hit songs where he's dissing people, often without naming names, and fans still sing along to them. Should his songs be taken down too? What about FBG Duck's music? Are all his tracks supposed to disappear as well? Fans started suggesting possible compromises, like maybe keeping the songs of deceased artists like King Von and FBG Duck up since they're no longer around. But even then, how do you decide what stays and what goes? For example, would someone like Wooski have to delete his diss songs aimed at Von, while Von's songs dissing him remain untouched because they're hits? The whole situation seems unmanageable, and honestly, counterproductive. At the end of the day, many fans feel these demands are just tactics to stall or discourage peace efforts. The idea of deleting diss tracks feels like more of a smokescreen than a real step toward reconciliation. Fans believe the focus should be on moving forward, letting the past stay in the past, and working on actual solutions. But as more conditions and requirements keep being added to the conversation, it's clear that some people aren't really interested in peace. They're just making things as difficult as possible to scare off people like J Mane who are trying to make a change. Also, it seems like there was a major disconnect between the OGs of OBlock and the younger generation. According to Tay 600, the peace talks weren't fully explained to the younger guys, which might explain some of the resistance. Apparently, a peace treaty had been on the table before, and 63rd was even willing to move forward with it. But the one person who completely shut it down was none other than King Von.
Oh, that was on the table when he was alright, but it was not on the table because he was not having it.
Von outright refused any attempts at peace, even when the OGs from both sides stepped in to try and mediate. Tay 600 claims that Von didn't just decline the peace treaty. He completely dismissed the idea, standing firm in his position against reconciliation. This all happened before social media, before clout chasing, and before the online drama we see now. Von's stance played a major role in why peace never materialized back then. In an earlier interview, J Mane was asked if he would have still pushed for peace if King Von were alive. His answer was vague, something about it depending on the timing. But based on what people like Tay have said, Von likely wouldn't have supported any peace efforts no matter what.
It was big in the city, OGs in the city. It was some powerful guys, some wise guys, man.
This leaves a lingering issue. The OGs of OBlock need to have honest conversations with the younger generation about why things escalated to such violent extremes and why peace never happened in the first place. Without that transparency, the cycle is bound to continue. Now back to the recent video. For a moment, it seemed like progress was being made. OBlock appeared to be receptive to J Mane's message. Iki Muna, in particular, stood out as a voice of reason. Despite his youth, he carried himself like an OG, asking the right questions and showing a real willingness to work towards peace. Iki's level-headed approach brought a sense of maturity to the conversation. He was proving that the younger generation could lead the charge for change. But just when it seemed like everyone was on the same page, things took a turn for the worse. Out of nowhere, E-Dog, J Mane's longtime rival, showed up and derailed the entire conversation. It was like he came there specifically to ruin everything. His presence brought tension that was hard to ignore, and the vibe shifted immediately. Some people have called him a disruptor, someone who was there to sabotage what could have been a meaningful step toward peace.
So I have to start right now, so why can't start with us right now? With all the little brothers right here, right now, let's make peace, let's make a point right now, and we don't stop. The brothers that's agreed to everything that you actually agreed to.
In the video, you can literally see the defeat on J Mane's face. Some say he looked scared and ran because he feared things would escalate into violence. Others believe it wasn't about fear at all, but more about frustration. It's like he was thinking, here I am trying to do something positive, and it feels like nothing's ever going to change.
You could try it, J Mane.
Either way, it was a tough moment for J Mane, and it showed just how hard it is to make progress in an environment where certain people seem intent on keeping things the way they are. People online were quick to point out the irony of the situation. E-Dog, who was around 35 years old, came in acting like the hot-headed young one, letting his emotions take over and disrupting the peace talks. Meanwhile, Iki Muna, a much younger guy, was the one showing maturity, wisdom, and leadership. It left people asking, why is a 35-year-old acting this way when the younger guys are trying to fix things? Adding to the frustration, E-Dog didn't just disrupt the meeting and leave it at that. Afterward, he made it all about himself, doing multiple interviews and drawing attention to his role in the situation. During his interview with DJU-TV, E-Dog brought up an interesting critique. He questioned why J Mane came to OBlock with security if he was genuinely pushing for peace.
Well, J Mane, took a trip to your neighborhood to push peace, and you weren't too fond of that. And it instantly went viral.
If he was pushing peace, why he come on security?
However, many people found this argument weak and unnecessary. The reality is, going into a hostile environment, even for a good cause, requires precautions. J Mane was literally putting his life on the line by stepping into a hood that's known for not liking him, all in an effort to convince them to consider peace. Bringing security isn't a sign of cowardice, it's common sense. Even if nothing goes wrong, being prepared for the worst is just smart. E-Dog also brought up his lingering grudge against J Mane over the infamous barbershop incident. He explained how J Mane turned their random encounter into an online drama, which, to be fair, does give E-Dog a valid reason to feel disrespected. but many felt that this personal beef shouldn't have been a reason to disrupt the peace talks, especially when bigger issues were at stake. Still, E-Dog argued that his problem with J Mane wasn't just about the past, it was about how J Mane approached the entire peace process. E-Dog's main point was that J Mane wasn't pushing peace in the right way. According to him, if J Mane was serious about ending the beef, he should have reached out to people from his own generation. The guys who were directly involved in the beef with him, like King Von's friends and others from that era. Instead, J Mane was talking to FYB Muna, who was from a much younger generation that wasn't even around during the height of the conflict. E-Dog saw this as proof that J Mane wasn't genuinely trying to make peace. He was just there for content.
He's just saying he should have came to holler at you.
Yeah, no, not me. Anybody that's in the era that he was dissing. All Von friends, everybody he did to J Money's his friends, cause you went down to the whole 2-3 generations down.
Right.
It ain't about who you come. It's about like, all right, let me reach out to such and such and such and such because they still around.
So you feel like he was doing more mocking?
No, he ain't mocking. He doing content.
Right.
Ain't no mocking, he content, he pushing content.
Some people online actually agreed with E-Dog on this point. They felt that it made more sense for J Mane to approach the older guys, like Von's friends, who are still active and were directly part of the issues. FYB Muna and the younger generation barely know anything about the original beef, so they aren't the right people to negotiate with. But at the same time, others argued that talking to the younger generation was a smart move since they are the future and have the power to break the cycle of violence. E-Dog also claimed that he didn't disrupt the peace talks because he was against peace itself, but because he felt the need to confront J Mane directly. In his eyes, J Mane's decision to leave instead of staying to address their issues showed a lack of commitment to real reconciliation.
I'm talking to you, I ain't treating you, I'm checking you.
Right.
Ain't nobody finna do nothing to you or nothing. You left trying to make it seem like, they on me now. We could've still been talking and holler. You know, you the one got up out of there. So it's like, what? I ain't pushing peace. He was trying to nah.
According to E-Dog, if J Mane truly wanted peace, he would have stayed back, faced him, and maybe even apologized for the disrespect. Instead, J Mane walked away, which E-Dog interpreted as a sign that he wasn't serious about making things right. FYB Muna echoed this sentiment during his own interview with DJU TV. He mentioned that J Mane and E-Dog should have taken the opportunity to talk things out instead of letting the situation fall apart. In his view, addressing personal issues head-on would have been a crucial step toward building trust and achieving peace.
I mean, he a grown man. Why you can't talk to a grown man? Cause I'm a kid, shit. I'm 20, but this your age, you know what I'm saying?
Later, E-Dog went even further, saying that for peace to happen, J Mane needed to make a public apology, not just to him but to everyone he had dissed in the past. He even suggested giving J Mane a list of names so he could apologize to each one publicly while standing next to E-Dog.
I'm gonna write every name you dissed, and you say every name. I'm gonna be right next to you. That's how I wanted to go.
This suggestion was widely criticized as unrealistic and one-sided. People pointed out that if J Mane was expected to do that, then everyone involved in the beef should be held to the same standard, since disrespect has gone both ways. It's not fair to put the entire burden of reconciliation on one person. Many felt that E-Dog's demands weren't about genuine concern for peace, but about gaining attention. It seemed like he wanted to position himself as the central figure in the situation, rather than focusing on what was best for the younger generation. His behavior led people to believe that peace might never happen as long as individuals like him continue to prioritize their egos over progress. But before FYB J Mane started pushing for peace, he was known as one of the wildest out there. Coming up in the trenches, he was right in the middle of Chicago's chaos. Back then, it wasn't uncommon for kids who grew up knowing each other to turn into enemies, all because of where they lived or who they started affiliating with. It's a messed up cycle, but J Mane lived it firsthand. Friends became ops, and the lines were drawn in the sand before they even had a chance to understand what was going on. J Mane's early years were rooted in the Calumet buildings, where he was around some of the grimiest figures in the game, including Lil Reese, the so-called Grim Reaper. Interestingly, J Mane has claimed Reese is his cousin, but if you know J Mane, you know he's a master troll, so it's hard to tell if he's serious or just messing around.
I don't know why he would come out on this DJU platform and say we not cousins, bro. Like that was a slap. That was a slap in my face. Y'all want me to call his mama?
Nah.
All right, it hit different. I'll call Lil Reese mama right now.
Reese, for his part, wasn't having it. He publicly denied they were cousins and even dissed J Mane, saying he was the hood pinata in the Calumet buildings because of how often he got beat up. To add to the disrespect, Reese claimed his own pops used to put hands on J Mane.
I had an interview with FYB J Mane. That's your cousin?
No, that
okay.
That one my cousin. He just was one of the little shorties in the building. And he used to get beat up.
Yeah.
He know he used to get beat up.
Of course, J Mane wasn't about to let Reese clown him like that. He called cap on everything Reese said, firing back and defending both himself and his dad. That's the kind of environment J Mane came up in. Raw, unfiltered, and always ready for drama. But despite growing up in the same space as people like Reese, J Mane eventually found himself on the opposite side of the beef. So how did J Mane go from being on their side to becoming an op? Well, he moved around a lot. While he started in the Calumet buildings, he eventually ended up on the side of Jarrow City and Tookaville. By the time he landed on 63rd with Wooski, KI and their folks, he was officially standing with them. That's also where he started clashing with people from his old stomping grounds, like Reese and the OTF crew. According to J Mane, that's the real reason Reese doesn't want to claim him as family, because J Mane reps 63rd, the enemy of 64th. From Calumet to 63rd, J Mane's life has been a roller coaster. He says he jumped off the porch at a young age, always being around savages and crime. He's seen it all. People getting shot, crushed by elevators, and even thrown off buildings. Growing up in that kind of environment hardened him, but it also pushed him deeper into the streets. Over time, he got close to some of the biggest OBlock ops, like 051 Melly and FBG Duck. But somewhere along the way, things went left with his old circle. J Mane used to be tight with folks like Reese, Chief Keef, and their crew, but their relationship eventually soured. That fallout turned into smoke, and J Mane didn't hold back. He came out swinging with diss tracks, and his very first music video was a diss aimed at Chief Keef. The video featured both KI and 051 Melly, and J Mane didn't just go after Keef. He took shots at everybody. He even got personal, dissing Keef's mom, showing just how wild and reckless he was back then.
K, we don't with them. 600K, I don't you a nigga. And your mama.
Things really escalated when King Von dropped Crazy Story, which had that viral line, "B, I'm from 64th, we not from 63rd." That line had the world clowning 63rd, and J Mane wasn't having it. He felt like Von was taking every opportunity to drag 63rd through the mud, so when Von passed, J Mane didn't back down. Instead, he dropped a diss remix of Von's Took Her to the O, and even had someone impersonate Von in the music video. The disrespect was at an all-time high, and the beef between the two sides seemed like it would never die down. But time changes things. People got locked up, homies on both sides lost their lives, and J Mane started to grow up. He began focusing on his YouTube channel, where he talks about Chicago's culture. And that's when his shift towards peace really began. Over time, his infamous catchphrase, "It hit different," became a whole movement. J Mane started using his platform to push for a better future, not just for himself, but for the next generation. He even took things a step further by apologizing to the mothers and families of ops he had dissed in the past. That was a big deal because it showed how much he'd grown as a person. J Mane was trying to leave the streets behind and create a life for his kids that didn't involve the same cycle of death and violence he grew up in. Now he's out of the trenches, trying to lead by example. And his push for peace is part of that. He's seen the worst of Chicago's street life and wants to ensure the younger kids don't have to go through the same. Whether or not his efforts materialize remains to be seen. But one thing is for sure, J Mane is doing his best to break the cycle.